Hey, it's the Clockwork Mage and this broadcast bell is live. So today I'm going to be doing two tier lists on Omega Strikers. The first one is going to be a meta tier list of the meta characters and where they rank. The second one is going to be a noob friendly tier list. So it's going to be the best ones for new players to pick up and to play and gain rank quickly. Now obviously as you're gaining rank you're going to want to transfer over to the meta tier list, but I still want to throw it in there for all the new players since the game is still relatively new, barely a week old. So starting with the meta tier list, I'm just going to go from top to bottom to the best of my ability. So first one is Juliet at OP tier. She's picker ban right now in meta. She's a very strong brawler, fast movement with crossover, and she just knocks people out and gets people out of the game very quickly. Next, I'm going to pick the best goalie in the game, which is Kai right now. He's probably the strongest goalie, even in the brawler meta. He can put a lot of pressure from the goal, and he can also stop multi-ability attacks from multiple people just with his one ability, his right click or E, depending on how you play. The next one is going to be Era. She's an extremely strong forward. She can easily just place her ult down, and her ult's very short cooldown too. And her ult can shove people out of the goal, force the goalie to move, force people to move. And if you get the ball in front of her ult, it's basically unstoppable. You can't just hit it out of the way. And then from there, I'm also going to put Asher, an extremely strong forward right now, and very easily is a very good front forward. So she can just play at the goal line, and even Kai can't stop the ball from going in if she uses one ability due to her passive shields blocking it if the puck hits her while she's using an ability. And then the last one for S tier is going to be X, as he fits very strongly within the brawler meta and he can easily deal a ton of damage to people and knock them out of the way and get them off the board, which leaves one less person to worry about. Next, we're going to be going to A tier, which Drekar, I believe, is very good. I think he can be S tier once the game is played a little longer and a little more. He has the capability to, especially since he is a strong brawler, and when he gets prime time going and has 3 shots, he can just take you from halfway into the map off the edge and kill you. Next, I'm going to say Estelle, because she's extremely strong, and if you're skillful, she can double tap the puck in, and even I've seen some stuff where the Estelle will bounce the puck off the top just to make the goalie walk up, and then as the puck's coming back, she shoots it in the bottom. It's really good, and she can outplay a lot of people with her dashes and everything like that. We also have Luna. Same type of idea. She's a very good middle forward, and people have been playing her goalie with eject button, but I think she's just a stronger forward. She can double tap and do some cheese stuff with her ult to knock people out and really do a lot of damage on the board with high mobility. And the last one for A tier, I'm going to have to say, is Atlas. Now, Atlas I think could be S tier, but his cooldowns are way too long, has very low mobility. His speed is probably one of the slowest in the game. So even as a goalie, he feels very dredging, even with stacks on stacks, which I think gives you the most movement speed. He doesn't feel as good as he should in a brawler meta. This is a brawler meta, and he's a guy that revives people and heals people, and he just does not feel as good as he should feel. It feels like the brawlers just have their cooldowns up way longer, and his ult cooldown is like a minute and a half. It's just not fast enough, and you just can't do much with him. And in the goal, he's not quick enough to stop any of the double taps, and he has no real capabilities of stopping it after he uses his ability. Okay, now into B tier is Juno. Juno is very good at controlling the map, but after you learn how to play against her, she's not that much of a menace. You can run into her blobs to stop them from even being a threat, or avoid them entirely, or even play into the blobs, since it's very predictable where they're going to shoot the ball. You know, if Juno's in front of her blobs, the blob is going to pass to her. You know, if Juno's behind her blobs, it's going to shoot towards the goal. So it's very predictable what her blobs are going to do, so you can just play around it and play into it if you really want to. And she's not that big of a threat. And Dubu, in my opinion, is the worst in the game right now. All of his abilities are very slow, but he does have some really nice forward work. He can play forward and knock people out and stuff like that, but everything he does can be done better by any of the other brawlers that I pointed out. Even Asher can do it better. And that's kind of my meta tier list and where I would place everybody and why. Now we're gonna jump to the noob tier list, or the newbie tier list. We can get a sense of how strong some characters are more in the early rankings of the game. So top of the tier list would actually have to be Juno. She's probably the only one that I'm gonna put in overpowered. Even just picking her up, she's super easy to play. She controls the whole field, and people still don't know how to play around the blobs. Even if they know what they do, they don't play around them correctly, and goalies are still just not hitting the ball correctly, and she just has so much pressure, it's not even funny. And she can make some really, really good plays too. I would have to say I'm pretty torn between Kai and Asher as goalies, just because they're really strong, and they're both still really strong. But Asher not so much as a forward in the noob play, just because playing her forward takes skill and positioning. So if you can do that well, she's again really strong, but I think she's just a strong noob. In fact, maybe Kai doesn't even belong up here because he's a little too technical and his abilities don't hit as hard as some other people. If anything, it'd actually be Estelle up here with Asher in S tier, just because, again, just picking up her abilities and catching people off guard with double taps and stuff like that makes her a really strong noob trap, along with Luna. That's probably the proper order in best to worst. So something like this, I would have to probably, if you're just going to be brawling the whole time, I would put X in the beginning of A tier, because even just brawling as X, his whole purpose, will still get your team wins, because you're getting people off the board, you're still doing really well, and even if you're not paying attention to the ball at all, in lower tiers, he's a menace and can literally wreak havoc on the whole enemy team by himself. In fact, I'd probably put him at the back of S, just because of how much pressure he can really put on the enemy team. Next in A, I'm going to say Dubu. He's a very strong goalie. Again, no reactionary stuff, but in lower tiers, all you have to do is ult, and they just don't know how to aim. They don't know how to get around his ult. He's very good at stalling the game out if someone gets knocked out, or even just stopping the ball entirely from going into your goal. After that would be Kai. Very strong ranged ability, very good at double taps. Kai forward's very good. If you can play Kai goalie early on, I would suggest it, but very hard to do without feeling like you're just not protecting as much as a normal goalie would, because he doesn't have blanket abilities or like creation abilities that would block the ball. You actually have to aim and position properly and stuff. So he's a little harder to play as goalie, but still strong if you can play him. And then I'm gonna say probably Atlas next in A, as he can heal people, he has creations, he can keep the ball away, and in lower tier, since they play so slow, his abilities are usually back up before you're really in any threat of the ball coming back and getting scored. Now in B tier, I'm gonna say the top of B tier is gonna be Juliet, as people that don't know how to play her, she will literally do nothing on the field at all if you're not playing her to her strengths. She's very hard to maneuver. You have to position yourself properly to the people and the ball, and she's extremely hard to play effectively. So I would not suggest a newbie to pick her up. Next, Era. Era, you have to predict things, you have to know when to buff, you have to know timings of people and when to really put pressure on, or when to try to relieve pressure for your team. So she can be very hard to play effectively and skillfully in lower ranks, but she at least can hit the ball and can create some pressure, even, I guess, mindlessly by accident. So maybe I'd put her higher than Juliet. And then I'm gonna put Drekar at the very bottom, as he can do less than nothing. Like, he can hinder you if you're just not playing him to his strengths. If you're missing your ult because of his skill shots, if you're not close enough for your shotgun, if you're not using your invisibility correctly and just mispositioning with it, you're just not gonna do very well. So with all of that, I think that's the end of my newbie tier list. Now, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'd love to hear how you guys would have changed my tier lists up in the comments. Yeah, I guess that's it. Thank you.